What's this? You don't understand even this. Can we really trust such a company with our precious land? In a business meeting, my boss fell silent, unable to answer the landowner's question. Let's pretend this conversation never happened. Or better yet, arrange for someone who can understand the situation to come talk. I responded to the landowner, who was trying to end a conversation. Please wait. I know that this land is very special and cherished. It was originally a bustling town center, a place where people gathered. If you entrust it to our company, I'm sure we can make it a wonderful place again. My words made the landowner's eyes widen. And my boss looked surprised too. How do you know this area was a town center? Even people who have lived here for a long time don't know that, as it was a small town. Why do you know? I smiled at his question and began to speak. My name is Mike. Currently, I live with my grandparents near our family home, working part-time at a real estate company. My parents are not around. They divorced when I was young. I was taken in by my mother and lived with her at my grandparents' house. However, 3 years after the divorce, my mother passed away due to illness. Having no siblings, it was just my grandparents and me. To raise me, my grandparents worked tirelessly, so I was a latchkey kid from a young age. After school, it was normal for me to go to a daycare, and I would spend my weekend at the library. Being introverted by nature, I was the quiet kid who watched my classmates play from a distance. My grandmother didn't engage in social activities like moms do today, so there was no family mingling. As a result, I hardly had any friends, which in hindsight, seems like a lonely childhood. But there was one friend who cared for me. He was considerate and popular in class. He would talk to everyone with a smile, including me, as if it was the most natural thing. When he told me, "Let me know if anything happens," I couldn't help but ask with a bit of doubt, "Why do you care so much about me?" But to my question, he simply replied as if it were the most natural thing, "Because we're friends, isn't it obvious?" I remember being incredibly happy to hear that. I don't know where he is or what he's doing now, but there was a time when I aspired to be like him. But reality doesn't always work out. After graduating from middle school, I encountered something in high school that made me distrust people. Since then, I became even more invisible. I endured 3 years of high school, thinking things would somehow get better after graduation. In college, I didn't socialize and spent my free time in the library, just like in elementary school. I loved reading, so that lifestyle suited me. But due to my poor communication skills, I failed at job hunting. Unfortunately, I graduated without securing a job offer. Under normal circumstances, this would be a cause for panic, but I was actually relieved. What if I encountered the same situation as in high school at a new job? I thought I'd rather work part-time, keeping my interactions with others minimal and necessary. That's how I found an office job at a real estate company near my home. It was simple administrative work. The job posting, requiring no specific educational background or resume, seemed perfect for me. Having a degree but preferring to be perceived as an ordinary high school graduate, I thought I could work quietly without drawing attention. My assumption was correct. The job didn't involve anything complicated, so I didn't need to rely on anyone. I really liked this quiet environment where I could work at my own pace on the tasks assigned to me. Then one day, a woman transferred to my workplace. Her name was Emily. She was a few years older than me and, despite her youth, had been given the rank of chief, indicating her competence. About a month after she joined the company, our department head, Thomas, said, "Mike, Emily is going to visit our landowner, Daniel's house. Could you guide her there?" I paused my work and looked up. "Emily isn't familiar with this area. You're a local, right? You can leave early today and head straight home after that." "Sure, no problem. I'll get ready right away." Feeling the gazes of Thomas and Emily, I responded, Daniel's house, if I recall correctly, was behind the cafe near the station. It's on my way home anyway. Lucky to get off work early. Thanks a lot, Emily said, and I nodded, quickly preparing to leave with her. This was my first straight-all conversation with Emily. As a part-timer, I didn't really have much time to chat. She's always busy. But she treats everyone the same, including me, always with a smile. Wow, you've lived around here all your life. Tell me about some good restaurants. There's a cafe near Daniel's place where I've seen young girls lining up. Just like that, we chatted about our hometowns. She's really easy to talk to. I'm glad we got such a wonderful boss. As I walked, thinking about how surely Emily would have a positive impact on our workplace, I quickly reached the vicinity of our destination. I believe that house over there is Daniel's. Thank you, the way was easy, so I think I can come here alone next time. Good luck with your meeting. I'll be leaving then. As I was about to leave, she called out, "Wait, what is it? Would you mind sitting in on the meeting?" I was surprised by her suggestion. Why me, a part-timer? I must have looked puzzled. Seeing my expression, she smiled. I think it'll be a learning experience for you. If you gradually improve your skills, becoming a full-time employee isn't just a dream. I understand that she's saying this for my sake. But I choose to be a part-timer by my own will. It's natural that she doesn't know this, but I'm not aspiring to be a full-time employee. No, I'm fine. I might disrupt the meeting. I struggled to find a polite refusal, but Emily persisted. Everyone starts as a beginner. I know this deal is important. It's a big project, and the first one I'm handling since my transfer, but I believe nurturing juniors is more important. I was unexpectedly moved by Emily's clear and straightforward words. Her ability to handle her job seemed to be encapsulated in that very statement. Encouraged by her words, I found myself nodding in agreement. Being in a new place, meeting new people always feels somewhat uncomfortable. However, the thought of Emily being there somehow makes me feel a bit more motivated to try. When I pressed the doorbell at Daniel's house, a friendly-looking lady welcomed us and guided us to her husband, the landowner. Nice to meet you, I'm Emily. Nice to meet you, I'm Mike. I greeted nervously, following Emily. In front of the somewhat dignified landowner, the meeting began. The project involved acquiring Daniel's land to develop it into a subdivision. Daniel's land is vast. It has been passed down for generations, but now it's left unused and has become vacant. So, I've negotiated several times to use it at our place, but I've been turned down every time. Of course, this land is also a name of our rival companies. Emily prepared a document about its benefits and explained it to Daniel in an easy-to-understand manner. The previous person in charge used to complain that he wouldn't even listen, but here was Daniel, leaning forward and intently looking at the document. It seemed like there was a good chance of success. Daniel commented, "These diagrams are really easy to understand. I couldn't quite visualize it with the other materials from past representatives and other companies because they didn't have so many pictures, but now I can finally get a picture in my head." "Thank you." She was smiling at Daniel's compliment. I thought everything was going smoothly. That was when it happened. "By the way, do you know why we own this land?" Daniel asked Emily. "I understand it's been passed down for generations. It's a precious piece of land," she answered. "Yes, it's true, but you do know what was here before we owned it, don't you?" Daniel pressed. Emily froze, and I was equally startled by that question. It's a well-known story back home. But of course, Emily, who just transferred here, wouldn't know about it. Daniel's expression changed. He said, "What? You don't know, originally, there was a private school there. It moved, and now there's a large elementary school. It's a well-known story." "I'm sorry, I should have known," Emily apologized. Can I really entrust such an important piece of land to a company like this? Daniel wondered. Emily fell silent at Daniel's words. All I could do was panic in this atmosphere. Watching us flounder, Daniel sighed and said, "Let's pretend this conversation never happened, or arrange for someone who understands to come instead." Daniel, trying to end a conversation. Just when things were going well, I couldn't let it all return to zero. As he was about to stand up, I impulsively said, "Please wait. I know this land is very special and important. It used to be a historic town, a central place where people gathered, that led to the establishment of a private school. If you entrust it to our company, we can make it a wonderful place where children's voices will be heard again." I was desperate. I didn't feel as articulate as Emily, but my sole aim was to keep Daniel here. I was driven by that single-minded purpose. Yet, it seemed like my plea had actually reached him. This area, being a historic town, is not well known, even among long-time residents. It was a very small castle. "How did you know that?" Daniel, upon hearing this, sat back down. Emily looked at me with wide eyes, surprised by my words. I looked at Daniel. Then, feeling relieved, I smiled and began to speak. "When I was young, I read a history book about the local area. It said there was a noble lord with great virtue who, after falling from grace, lived here in what could barely be called a castle. But a lord is a lord. The area around his home prospered as a historic town. That's where your land is now," I explained. Daniel smiled at my words. "That's right. Then, the Lord built a facility for children to study. Our ancestor was a teacher there, friendly with the Lord. Eventually, he inherited the facility, which later became known as a private school, and our family continued to teach there," he recounted. "So, it has been carefully passed down to you. You have a remarkable piece of property," I complimented. With little experience in human relations, I cobbled together words for models to say to him. My heart was pounding, but I managed to keep the conversation going. Now, all that was left was to pass the baton back to Emily. "It's such a precious land. I can understand your wish to preserve it, but leaving it as is would be a waste of a treasure. With Emily, it will surely become a bustling, vibrant place again," I encouraged. Daniel's gaze then shifted to Emily. "Yes, I guess it would be a waste to just leave the land unused like that. Can I count on you?" Daniel said. "Yes, absolutely," Emily replied with joy. At Emily's happy response, Daniel, I, and everyone else were all smiles. And so, we successfully sealed the deal. "Then, I'm counting on you," Daniel said as he bid us goodbye. As he left, both Emily and I greeted him. It was about 2 hours past the regular working hours. I wondered if I'd get paid for the overtime, but my spirits were high. It was the first time I had felt such a sense of accomplishment at work. "Mike, you really saved the day. How about I treat you to dinner as a thank you?" she suggested. I glanced at the clock. Indeed, I was getting hungry. We had worked hard past our regular hours. It wouldn't hurt to accept a treat. So, I agreed and, after returning to the office to drop off the documents, went to a nearby restaurant with Emily. "Order whatever you like," Emily exclaimed. "Then, is steak okay?" I asked. "Of course," she replied. Taking her at her word, I ordered a steak. She had a salad. I felt a bit guilty for indulging, but decided not to hold back and bit into the meat. "Thank you for earlier. The deal went well because of you," Emily said. "It's nothing. That question wasn't something you could have answered, so I just stepped in," I replied, a bit gruffly and embarrassed. But she said happily. No, when I went back to the office to drop off the documents, I asked everyone, and no one knew about the historic town. And to remember it in such detail just from reading it in a book once is amazing. "You're really talented, aren't you?" she added. I fell silent at her words. I'm not particularly talented. But tell me, are you really just a high school graduate? What's your highest level of education? It's the Harvard University. I muttered softly. It was the first time I had been asked, so I answered, but Emily looked exaggeratedly surprised. Even though part-time jobs don't require resume, why are you hiding it? It's a waste. Honestly, you could get a job at a decent company as a full-time employee, right? Her words made me laugh involuntarily. Indeed, it was a natural assumption. So, I decided to tell her. I was sure that Emily would understand the real me and would continue to treat me the same as before. The truth is, I was raised by my grandparents because I didn't have parents. They were always busy, and books were my friends. Strangely enough, once I read something, I could remember almost all of it. So, that's how you knew about the historic town, and remembered it. I nodded at her words and continued. I think I just have an exceptionally good memory, but in high school, I was always reading books in the library instead of studying, and when I always topped the tests, rumors started that I was cheating. I began to talk about my bitter past memories. I never really had friends, but that made everyone distance themselves even more. A senior I didn't know found out about me and ordered me to do his textbooks and homework. Because of that, I ended up memorizing even the textbooks for higher grades, making me unbeatable in tests and increasing the jealousy of my classmates. I understood that the tests that were easy for me were difficult for everyone else, but since my grandparents worked so hard to raise me, I couldn't just slack off. Because of that, people whispered behind my back. Eventually, it felt like all those whispers were directed at me, leading me to develop a distrust of people I shared. I talked with a smile, trying not to make the conversation too gloomy. However, Emily's expression was dark. She seemed to be sympathizing with me, but it felt oddly uncomfortable. That stuff, she said. Well, it wasn't like I was visibly harassed or anything, so I just thought if I could graduate from high school, things would somehow work out. But after graduating from university, I couldn't find a job due to my low communication skills, I explained. It's not that you couldn't, you just didn't want to, right? Did you seriously try job hunting? Emily probed. I was lost for words at her comment. No, actually, I felt relieved that I couldn't get a job. Unable to escape those eyes, I murmured softly. Indeed, I hadn't really tried my best. Not only did I not capitalize on my strengths, but I also never even mentioned my talent for memorization in any job interview. Emily, slightly exasperated, said, "Are you okay with this? Just like the land today, if you don't use it, it's a waste." Her words struck me. Why don't you try applying for a full-time position with us? I'll recommend you. Sure, you were not eloquent in today's negotiation, but your determination came through, and you helped me. I think we can be good partners, she suggested. I have been passive in life until now. But maybe now was the time for a change. Can I really do it? I wondered. You can, she assured me. I began to think about growing a little at a time. I was grateful to her for making me feel this way. Afterward, I spoke to Thomas and decided to take the company's full-time employment exam. Thomas was surprised when he saw my educational background on the resume. And so were all the other employees. Emily and I exchanged glances and smiled at their reactions. Emily, and then Thomas, wrote recommendation letters for me. Thanks to my consistent work as a part-timer and my role in helping Emily with Daniel's land deal, I passed the full-time employment exam. I became a proud member of the workforce. My grandparents were overjoyed to hear that I had found stable employment. Emily, with her easygoing nature and good interpersonal skills. Me, knowledgeable about the local area thanks to the books I had read. Just as Emily had said, we worked together as partners and improved our performance. Our branch even achieved first place in sales across all stores, and I was enjoying my fulfilling days. Thanks to Emily, I expanded my network and seemed to have overcome my distrust of people. There are so many kind and wonderful people in the world. I hadn't realized that before. The stories I hear from different people contain things that are not written in books. It was all very fresh and enjoyable. One day, I learned that a local company was planning to open a branch. I headed out to see if they would let us handle the project. Hello, enter the office and greet them cheerfully. Then, I asked for the person in charge who had made the appointment. Could it be Mike? I was called by the representative. He knew my first name. I looked up at him and exclaimed, "Ah, there's no way my good memory would forget him." "John," I exclaimed. "Indeed, it's you, Mike," he responded. He was my only friend during elementary and middle school, the one who always called me a friend. To think I'd run into him here, of all places. This unexpected reunion brought a smile to my face. When I called to make an appointment, a woman answered the phone. After that, I corresponded with John, the person in charge, by email. Today was the first time we spoke and met in person. I had no idea he was an old friend. I was quickly ushered into a room where I gave my presentation. Inspired by Emily, I included many diagrams and illustrations in my materials, which seemed to help John grasp the concept easily. He listened intently. Of the several sales pitches I've heard, yours was the most understandable. No flattery. You've always been smart. John complimented my materials. John, you've always been popular, and you truly have a way with people. Becoming a manager at this age is impressive, I said. He laughed at my words. The meeting ended on a good note, and he seemed positively inclined to consider our proposal. Later, he formally requested our services, and I showed John several potential sites. After internal discussions at his company, they decided to proceed with the construction. Since then, I've been indebted to John both professionally and personally. Whenever he knew someone looking for a real estate company, he'd refer them to us, contributing to my own success. In turn, I introduced my contacts to John, maintaining a mutually beneficial relationship. 5 years have passed since then. Dad, I'm going to play with Jesse on the 13th. Can I go? Weren't you going to Tiff's house on the 13th? Oh no, I forgot. Maybe we can all hang out together. I smiled at my wife, who always had a wide network of contacts. Mom, get it together. I'm blessed with a cute daughter, and I'm very happy. Mom's busy too, you know, since Dad has such a good memory. Managing the schedule is his job. Laughing at our daughter's words, my wife, Emily, who used to be my boss at the company, agreed. As work settled down, I grew to admire her character and respect her for all she is, especially for how she changed my life. I wanted to make her happy. We get married, and now our daughter is already 3 years old. She's a talkative little girl, just like her mother. We built our house in a corner of the subdivision connected to us by Daniel, living happily ever after. Many families live nearby, and we exchange smiles with our neighbors. I think the area has regained its vibrancy. Daniel was overjoyed when he found out we got married and lived here. Though he's no longer directly involved, he has a special connection to this land and greeted us during one of his walks. I wouldn't have been able to grasp this happiness if I had remained as I was. Living openly with one's talents and turning bitter experiences into growth is important. I owe so much to my wife, who gave me this opportunity. Our daughter will surely go through various experiences. Even if she struggles with relationships, meeting trustworthy people will help her discover a new self, just like I did. And in this happy home, I want to teach her that she can surely find happiness.